Hi, this is Sergeant Betsy Brantner Smith at the National Police Association, and this is the National Police Association podcast. I don't think it's any secret that I love dogs, and I always try to get um, people who either work with dogs or use dogs in some professional capacity on the show because I know you love dogs too. So I have with me someone today who loves dogs as much as I do, and and uses them to help fellow first responders. She was a dog handler, law enforcement officer, and now she's in the mental health space, trying to do everything she can to utilize dogs to help first responders who are experiencing trauma, who have been involved in critical incidents. Why don't I just let her tell you all about it? Jannine Bagot, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, Betsy. I appreciate it.
So, first and foremost, I have to ask you this because I ask everybody, why'd you become a cop?
Well, it was kind of the easy transition. I was a combat aerovac medic, and you get into that mindset of that paramilitary, military type mindset. And for me, I transitioned into a medical role within the law enforcement field. So, and then from there, I went completely, I guess, what you'd call to the dark side, and went fully law enforcement and got into K9 and stayed in that realm for a number of years. Yeah.
Now, I got to ask you, how come you didn't go to the fireside?
It just wasn't as appealing to me. I mean, I love the hosers, but you know, it was just more I wanted to be a canine handler. That's what I wanted to do. And so that to me was the only option I could do that I saw was to go law enforcement.
So, when did you first become a canine handler?
Wow. That would be back in the 90s. I first got into doing canine as a search and rescue handler for a sheriff's department in California. And then that took me to a couple different directions. I've worked for a number of different agencies, federal, state, and local. And my last place, I'm here in Texas now. I've worked for several agencies here in Texas. I'm still reserve with an agency here in Texas, but we ran dogs for narcotics. I've run an explosives dog. In fact, I've got my retired explosives dog here with me. He's laying down here, chilling on the carpet while I'm talking to you.
What is your what was your favorite dog assignment? I'm very curious why people choose different things, whether it's bomb, search and rescue, patrol, things like that.
Um, I would have to say, for the excitement side of it, the narcotics was phenomenal. You get to run code, you get to go help other people out. The explosive side was pretty cool too. I mean, that's more intense. It's like you want your dog to do good, but you really don't want to find an explosive device. You're hoping that there's nothing there. Whereas on the narcotics side, you go and you really do want to find something because that's, kind of cool, and you can add those charges to an individual who deserves it. So.
How difficult is it to retire a working dog? I mean, we know what it's like for people to retire.
Right.
What's it like for a working dog?
It can be quite difficult depending on the temperament of the dog because they're used to going every day. You get ready, you put your uniform on, and they want to go too. And so it really depends on that dog. Luckily, with my bomb dog, he's social enough. I take him as a demo dog to different events where I'm speaking. And those dogs that I use in the critical incident realm, I have other dogs that I use for that. But he loves going still to this day. And so yeah, it's just one of those things where I can use him where I can, but otherwise he stays home begrudgingly. Yeah.
So how did you move into uh, the mental health space with dogs?
Oof, that's a loaded question. um, Being a combat aerovac medic, I was active duty and I was reserve, and we ran into a lot of stuff. I first joined the military right after I graduated high school in '84, and back then women weren't well received in a lot of ways. And I had been on the receiving end of sexual harassment and a lot of different work related issues. And when I got out of the military, went into the law enforcement realm, it's there too. To this day, it's still there. And I got tired of it. I mean, I love my dog, and it was great because I could take a dog with me. And I saw the different traumas that both military members went through and law enforcement, fire, EMS. They were similar, but yet they were different. And it was nice that I could have a dog with me. I mean, much less I just love having dogs around. Um, it was one of those things where it's like, I've got to be able to use what those talents are that God gave me to do something more, because it finally got to a point where I had to walk away from full-time law enforcement. I mean, I'm retired, but I finally was like, this is obviously not getting any better. And I was suffering because I had things going on the family side, my mom, different issues, things at work where I was being harassed at work. And finally, you better choose yourself in a good way. You better choose yourself. And I decided, you know what? I'm worthy and I can do more so on the outside of law enforcement, helping those that are still in, than being on the inside and trying to tread water. So using dogs for me, it was just a known thing that I could do. And it started off on the post-traumatic stress side. And then I'm like, there's got to be a way I can do more with one dog, because as a handicapped service dog, it's one dog, one human. Well, you're not going to be able to catch up with one dog, one human. So I wanted to be able to use one dog with multitude of people. And so for me, I designed the program that I have under my organization, just like any other type of police canine specialty. All the same demographics, all the same case law, liability issues, and whatnot that we can, use under normal situations. And then it's just a different specialty. So, and that's the direction I decided to go. And it's worked out well. I've got dogs now all over the country, and they're supporting both internally inside, the agency walls, but then out in the community as well. And they're doing amazing things.
Well, and that's the thing. I think anybody who's been in law enforcement for a period of time, sees how cops light up when a dog comes, right? Most
Oh, yeah.
police
Yeah.
officers, love to see a dog, whether it's, a friendly patrol canine, or even, animal control brings in a puppy or whatever. Um,
Right.
for most people, not all, but for most people, a dog just warms people's hearts regardless of the situation. And
Yes.
but now we're at a point in the law enforcement profession where we are using dogs for specific mental health um, roles, if you will. And that's what your organization is doing. And
Yes.
so, talk about your organization and the kinds of things that you have dogs doing around the nation.
Sure. So I started my organization in 2011, and it's progressed into something that at the time I could not imagine, even with some of the things that these dogs are doing, the great things that these officers are taking and trying with these dogs. We've got dogs all over the country that we train specifically. I mean, I temperament test them. They're rescues. Some of them are rescues. Some of them are donated breeder dogs because I'm not going to pay no $5,000 for a dog. And we train them. We pair them with the agency. The agencies own the dogs, but I educate them on all of those things that you and I know has to be followed as a canine handler that the agency is responsible for under federal and state laws. And so I educate those agencies, I educate the handlers that they go into it eyes open. My organization's not telling you how to run your program. I'm telling you how the federal government is telling you how you have to run certain portions of that canine team. And we do that by the education, by the national third-party certification. Again, we've set it up just like any other type of specialty, police canine, fire canine, whatever, if you're talking narcotics, arson, search and rescue, whatever. We do that because that's what is expected under liability purposes for the agency. Just because this dog seems sweet and nice, that's great. But if you've not temperament tested this dog to prove that it can withstand some of the crazy situations that our dogs are put in, then you're at risk of, the dog biting someone, knocking somebody down. You don't have that yearly certification, which most municipalities, I would say all municipalities, in fact, require because that's case law. That is industry standard that a police canine, an arson dog under fire, under most cases, electronics detection dogs, they all have to be certified on a yearly basis. Same thing goes for these guys. And that's one of the things I'm seeing across the country, which is why I'm really trying to promote our organization to get that training and education out there. Is just because your agency calls it I don't know, a therapy dog, which I hate that terminology. Ugh, because these dogs are much more than that, at least the ones that come through my program. But why aren't you treating them the same way that any of these other canines are being made to follow through with? The 16 hours a month of training, your documented deployments, your recertifications, all of these things have to be maintained just like any other type of police canine, fire canine, whatever. So I'm confused with why they're treating this so differently. And that's one of the big reasons that I'm trying to get this information out there so that we can all be on the same page. And again, you have to train seriously, you have to behave professionally to be taken seriously across the board. And so that's what we're trying to do under our organization, because that's the only way that we can help our fellow first responders is by having a dog that because our dogs go out on the scene of an officer involved shooting and they're there during all the chaos. Our dogs have to be able to neutralize the environment so they can, in fact, purposefully interact with the person who needs them, because that's what they're there to do. Raising the serotonin level while lowering the cortisol level will hopefully affect that person in a positive way. So when they have to go home that night, they're not in such a high anxiety mindset that they do something catastrophic and they take that ultimate decision that we hope no one does again. But unfortunately, it's still happening.
Are the dogs trained to detect certain things in a person who might be at risk?
We actually do. We are the first of our kind about 5 years ago, I started doing training on cortisol detection. And so we do that box training with them detecting the cortisol that we take off of individuals who have been stressed. And luckily, I've got some police departments local to me where I can go take sweat samples and whatnot from their individuals during the academy. And you know how that is, especially when it's a new person and they're like, oh my God, I'm about to go into this situation. And they're almost in panic mode because they don't understand. And so we get the sweat off of those individuals, and I can use that to help the dogs detect what cortisol smells like. So when we go in to do a debrief, let's say, my dogs will identify the most highly stressed people in the room. And because you and I in the law enforcement field, we're such alpha females, well, the guys are even worse when it comes to being an alpha male. God forbid you show any weakness. Well, I can cheat. My dog's going to tell me. And then when you step out of the room, or maybe it's even after the fact, I can reach out to you and say, so, my dog told on you. And I'm checking in to see how you're doing, or whatever, if you know that person, sometimes you have a specific way of talking, but you can check in with them without anybody else knowing that you've noticed something's not normal, or not normal in them. They're not their normal jovial self or whatnot. So we can use those dogs for that. We've had these dogs used in a number of situations, one of which is during I've got several dogs now in schools and with school police departments. And one of the handlers was telling me we're walking down an empty hallway and the dog starts pulling me towards a certain room. And out pops this little girl about 7 years old. And her canine, which is Radar, you'll die laughing because they're dual purpose dog for the agency. It's Odessa, Missouri. Their dual purpose dog is Hawkeye.
I love it.
So it's a little play on things, but so Radar beelines for this little girl, follows her back down the hallway that they just walked up into the admin office, into the counselor's office, and sits there next to her. And the counselor, looks back and says, oh, well, I was going to call you, but you're already here. So, and what ended up finding out is that the child's mother attempted suicide the night before. The officer didn't know this. The dog obviously knew something was wrong, didn't know exactly, but yeah. So we do that for a reason. We've had our dogs interfere with a special needs person that's not violent, but we've had dogs that respond to, there was one where there was a teenage girl threatening to commit suicide by running out onto the freeway. So that unit that has the dog responded. They started talking. They figured out, okay, she's not going to be violent because these dogs aren't taught to protect themselves or protect their handler. And they figured out that this girl liked dogs. Well, hey, I've got my dog here. Would you like to pet him? And they start talking. And little by little, it gets to the point where she's voluntarily getting into the car. They don't have to hog tie and gag her and, throw her into the back of the car. And she voluntarily goes for help, all because we can soften that contact.
I have seen a number of agencies around the country who want to have a therapy dog program, and they go and get a friendly lab puppy, and it lives in the station or hangs out, and people pet it. That is not this program, right?
No, absolutely not. No. Our dogs, other than I temperament test them, I train them, the certification process that they have to go through, there's prerequisites for both the dog and the handler. So there's certain training that the handler has to go through for peer support training, for bloodborne pathogens, for FEMA 100, 200, first aid, CPR. There's a number of different trainings and things that the officer has to go through before they can even apply to get certification. The dog has to be spay or neutered, has to be at least a year old, can't have any history of aggression towards anything, animal or people. And the test in and of itself through ARI, which is Alliance for Emergency Response Instructor and Examiners, you have to take a written test, which I have helped with, designing all of it, but it's their test. You have to take a written test first by the handler, and then there is a actual test that the dog and handler have to take together, which then certifies you as a team. So that person and that dog are certified together. You can't have somebody else come grab, let's say it's your agency's narcotics dog, come grab your narcotics dog and go run it on a vehicle and expect that to hold up in court. It's not going to happen. So the same expectations that you would have for a narcotics dog, you have for these dogs, because the certification is one dog, one human. So just because the dog is tested doesn't mean you can change the handler on a day-to-day basis. You have to deploy the handler and the dog that are certified together for it to be covered under liability, under court, case law, and in a courtroom testimony type situation.
What's your ideal scenario? If you were made queen right now, and you want to see a dog in every agency, a couple dogs in every state, what's your biggest goal here?
Sure, I would love to see more dogs in more agencies across the board. I would love to see what my ambition is to have our version of a FEMA task force type group where we have actual law enforcement officers that are certified with our own agency dogs that the federal government can then ask us to deploy to a major scene. So then, as a first responder and a law enforcement officer under the criminal justice information system, I'm covered because I have to test that every 2 years. I'm not going to be taking that information out. I've got a full background check done because I'm actually working for an agency. The dogs are certified on a yearly basis with their handler, and all of that stuff is maintained. I know how to behave in that kind of a setting. And there are some great volunteer groups out there, but that's not what we are doing. I'm involved in the evidence side of things and dealing with the first responders, dealing with the dispatchers, dealing inside the agencies or in and around a crime scene. And so that's what I would like to see is, yes, more dogs, more agencies, but more training that if they could come to my conferences, I'm now up to 2 conferences this year, and learn what we're doing and why we're doing it, and then get the certification. Because even if the dog doesn't come from my organization, we're still offering that certification to agencies, which will still bring them on board to the same level. But I want to see us be able to have the ability to deploy and have that agency reimbursed for the salary that they're putting out for their person to be offsite, out of state, whatever, helping a fellow first responder agency that's suffering.
Boy, these are incredible goals, lofty goals. Tell us where people can find you, the website, your socials, if they want to get in touch with you, to be able to learn more about your program and maybe, get a dog of their own if they're a police agency.
Yes. So it's K9sforfreedom.org is the website. You can find me there. I'll give out my cell phone. I don't care. You can call me on my cell phone. And that's 360-471-1067. My email address is my first name at K9s4freedom.org, just like the website. I'm on Facebook, Instagram. I have a personal page on LinkedIn. You can find me there. Most any place on the internet, you can probably find me. We've gotten enough videos out of our dogs. We've got several conferences coming up if you're interested in maybe checking us out before you have a dog. We've got one in San Diego, which a great friend of mine is helping me with. She's the head trainer for Customs and Border Patrol's program. They call them Support K9s. And that's Monica Williams. We're doing a seminar in San Diego, July 7th through the 11th. We're also doing another conference or seminar in Oklahoma City, and that is September 30th through October 4th. Those police departments from those agencies are sponsoring and hosting those events. So it's in and for law enforcement. We've gotten, Customs and Border Patrol involved. We've gotten the FBI involved. We're gaining strides, and we're hoping that we can help more heroes heal with getting these dogs out and being able to hopefully prevent any more of these suicides. But if you throw my name in, you throw the organization in, however you want to do it, find me. I'm more than willing to talk and figure out how we can work on getting you guys a dog. And that's fire as well. I've got dogs in the fire departments as well. It's just predominantly right now police departments.
Gotcha. I tell you, Janine, you're doing amazing work, and we can't thank you enough for spending time with us today. And if you'd like more information about the National Police Association, you can visit us at nationalpolice.org.
Every day, the brave men and women of law enforcement put their lives on the line to keep us safe. But they need our help to continue their mission. Activist politicians, progressive prosecutors, the ACLU, and the rest of the anti-police forces receive millions in donations from extremist pro-criminal elements like George Soros and woke corporations. The National Police Association is fighting them in courts around the country, including the United States Supreme Court, defending officers who are being attacked for doing their jobs. Additionally, the National Police Association works year-round to pass tough-on-crime legislation to put and keep criminals behind bars. Consider going to nationalpolice.org and donating to keep us in the fight. Together we can win. That is nationalpolice.org.